Dak Prescott said recently, he talked to some media members, and he was asked about contract situation, as we all are. We're talking about the contract situation with Dak, and he had a very, very interesting quote. So take a listen.
Obviously, I want to be here. Talking about growing up, this is where I've become a man. So, but at the end of the day, it's a business, and when I'm gonna say I want to be here, but when you look up, all the great quarterbacks I watched played for other teams. So my point in saying that is that's not something to fear. That may be a reality for me one day, may not be my decision.
So do you think Dak's already looking at the future, looking at other quarterbacks around the league that he's looked up to and saying, well, Tom Brady, even Joe Montana, a couple of these top-tier quarterbacks in history, Peyton Manning, some of these top-tier quarterbacks, they moved on. Do you think this could be the last season that we see Dak Prescott in a Dallas Cowboys uniform?
Well, it doesn't look like the contract's imminent, even though Jerry Jones says, the players play better with him. He makes teammates play at a higher level. There's no question about that. I'm his best fan, he says, but there's no imminent contract that's coming for him right now. So he doesn't fear signing elsewhere, although he may regret it if he goes to a team that's not doesn't have the tools like the Cowboys have, and is not going to be as competitive, and will have a tougher time making the playoffs. I think Jerry Jones may look at the situation and say, while he had 4,500 yards passing, it's almost a 70% completion rate, 36 TDs, 9 interceptions during the regular season, and was in the MVP discussion. He's 2-5 in the playoffs. He lost to Green Bay in the playoffs last year. They were behind 48-16 in the fourth quarter. He had 2 interceptions, 1 for a pick six. So Jerry Jones ain't getting any younger. He wants to win a Super Bowl. He may think, you know what, I can't get it done with Dak Prescott.
And I do think that is a major question mark. Now, what I think actually may hurt Dak is to his contract, because Tua is able to take less, even though this is his first massive extension. And he just led the league in passing yards, I believe. He was top tier the past couple of years in a bunch of very key passing stats, completion percentage, yards, TD to interception. Like, Tua did very well the past couple of years and still took less than what the new market has been set at. Dak Prescott is looking at $60 million. That's what's been reported. Dak says, I don't play for the money. I would play for free. Well, that's not the case at all. If you're not directly saying that you want $60 million, your agents are. And if they're your agents, and if you truly want to be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys and want to continue being their quarterback, tell your agents, hey, I'm fine with X number. Instead, we keep hearing $60 million. But what I do think is kind of fascinating is it's the same problem with Tua, except a little bit more so. Because we've seen much more Dak Prescott. He's been playing in the NFL since 2016. And there's been a common narrative, especially recently. Dak doesn't beat winning teams. And over his career, that has been the case. So let's bring up exactly how Dak has done, and especially in losses against these winning teams, Dak becomes a very bad quarterback. Now, they're losses. That's I'm throwing out there. It even says it in the title. Career in losses against winning teams. He loses by double digits, more than one score. 63% completion percentage. The yards, it's because they're down by so much. A bunch of those are garbage yards. Just like in the playoffs, like you mentioned, was it 48-16 they were down in the fourth quarter? Yeah, and they ended with 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had 1 in the first half, 1 through 3 quarters. So, and look, passing touchdown interceptions, that's the key there. Nearly a 1-to-1, and that's 1 touchdown a game in losses versus 1 interception normally, on average. Passer rating, under 80. That means you're not a great quarterback at all. And team points per game is 16.8. And the big thing is, and we all know this, get the ball out of Dak's hands. We see this with Josh Allen. Quarterbacks that are relatively reckless, your team does better and is more efficient when you take the ball out of their hands. Josh Allen through the back half of the season. Once Ken Dorsey was fired, running game picked up, they won a lot more games. They went 7-3 to end the season. Compared to when they had Joe Brady. When they had Ken Dorsey, it was like, they're 5-5. Not a great start. Not a great record at all. Josh Allen was playing worse, more picks, same amount of touchdowns. But when it was back to Joe Brady, it's like way more efficient. Turnovers dropped, yards per game went up. It was good. With Dak Prescott, he's 26-24. That's 52% winning percentage when throwing 35 times or more. So when the ball's in his hands, he nearly wins as much as he wins a little bit more than he loses. But when he throws for 34 or fewer times, he wins 75% of his games. He's 48-16. And add on to the fact that when he has a rusher who rushes 100 or more times, he's significantly a better quarterback. Now, the problem with what the Cowboys have now is you have Ezekiel Elliot as your starting running back, who is rated the third most overrated player on the Cowboys when we talked about that Cowboy fan survey. But Ezekiel Elliott, the last time he played for the Dallas Cowboys, he had 876 yards, 12 touchdowns. The 12 touchdowns was key, though. He had 22 touchdowns in the last 2 years with the Cowboys. A lot of those were red zone, couple yards in, hand the ball off, power through an offensive lineman. But his yards per game went down. Efficiency went down when he was with the Dallas Cowboys. When the Patriots, they used him as a utility guy. Red zone, couple nice plays here. When Ramondre Stevenson went out, Ezekiel Elliott was the RB1. But last time we saw him in the Cowboys, he got trampled as playing the center, which then, again, crazy way to end your season, playing a center, getting steamrolled. But Dak doesn't win in the biggest moments. He is the worst playoff record amongst minimum 5 games played in the playoffs, 2-5. But let's add a tiny bit more context to it. That last win was against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers team with a broken down offensive line and Tom Brady at 45 years old, who when a defensive lineman or a defensive player got within 50 feet of him, he would just throw it away, stick it into the ground. He did not want to get hit. So that was a kind of a scared Tom Brady that you beat with a broken down offensive line. That's one of your wins.
I'm not sure I'd ever call Tom Brady scared on the football field.
Then I would take a look at that 2022 season because that was very difficult to watch Tom Brady act like that.
Do you think that Jerry Jones has his eye on Trey Lance?
I think that's a bad idea regardless. I've been on this so many times before. I don't think Trey Lance is a good quarterback. 49ers swung, missed, and said, you know what? We're not going to give him a shot. We're not going to give him money. We're going to say, well, and they got him for a 4th-round pick because nobody saw him. Saw him for 4 games. But Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, they saw him during training camp. They saw him during practices. And they're like,
I think they're going to give Trey Lance a really hard look in the preseason. If they see that he looks good, they're going to play it out with Dak and see what they can do in the offseason next year. You can't give him a franchise tag. He's protected against that. He has a no-trade clause. So he may wind up a free agent, and maybe they put their future with Trey Lance.
Jerry Jones doesn't think so. So he said on Thursday when he was asked if Prescott will leave in 2025, he goes, I don't think so. Just to be very specific, I do not think that this will be his last year with the Cowboys at all. It's pretty clear, I think. I wouldn't say it if he hadn't been clear of how much we appreciate Dak Prescott or of what Dak Prescott has meant to this team in a positive way. Well, if that was the case, you would have extended him last year. You wouldn't have waited till the end of his deal to extend him.
He's also got 2 big deals he has to do out there with Lamb and
absolutely
and Parsons.
And they could be they could be up against each other for the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. Nick Bosa, I believe, has that title, or maybe it's Justin Jefferson. But regardless, CeeDee Lamb's going to get the contract. Micah Parsons going to say, well, he got paid a lot. I want to get paid massive number 2. It's the kind of thing with the 49ers. The 49ers have been giving out contracts like it's nothing to these top-tier players, and Brandon Ayuk is kind of on the back end saying, like, well, what about me? I just had my best season. Brock Purdy loves me. That kind of Brady Edelman type of, it's the Mahomes-Kelsey connection.
Yeah.
It's now Purdy Ayuk. And if Ayuk's gone, well, the passer rating drops by 20 points to the next receiver, which I believe is Deebo Samuel. So I do think this will be Dak's last year because the fact that he's already talking about and making it seem like he's looking beyond the Cowboys, it's the same thing with most, if not every player in the NFL. They always have the same mindset. Once I really start considering retirement, then I know it's time. And I think this could be the same thing with the Cowboys and Dak Prescott of, if I'm thinking about, let's see what could be some openings. Well, maybe the Falcons will get off of Kirk. I'm just throwing that out there just because I'm going to be a hot commodity in free agency if I do it free agency. I think a lot of teams will want me.
I think he's right. I think there'll be quite a few teams that will want him.
And if he does hit free agency,
well, they want him at
$60
million a year. I mean, the $55 million a year contract is this year's number, inflation.
Yeah, he has a $55 million cap at this year.
I mean, there's going to be 3 or 4% inflation. So not that hard to get to $60 million from 55.
Could he look at Pittsburgh and say, "Well, Mike Tomlin, good defense, building offensive line. I have George Pickens.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams he could look at.
I got Jaylen Warren in the backfield. I got Najee Harris. That's not a bad idea. What about Cleveland? They already screwed up with Deshaun Watson, and he's been a horrible quarterback since he hit the Browns. Could they be looking? I mean, you could look at a couple of these places, and I think there could be a contract war because then it's Dak Prescott, draft a quarterback, or Trey Lance.
I think his best chance for a $60 million contract next year as a free agent is probably with a team that is looking to jump up into the elite tier that isn't there yet. And that would be a risk because they might not get there with Dak Prescott. And then his chances of even playing in the playoffs are not that good.
I'm going to throw
the Giants.
I was going to say
the Giants.
I'm throwing two teams out there, and I want to see what your reaction is. One would be the New York Giants.
Yeah.
The second one would be the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
You got Kenneth Walker in the backfield, a building offensive line, JSN, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. A defense that's not that bad and only growing with Tyreek Woolen. So, and Devin Witherspoon as well.
Yeah.
I think the Seahawks, if Dak gets free agency, I think the Seahawks could look at Dak like, well, can he be our next Russell Wilson? Can he just play in our system? We have a bunch of weapons. We have a good running back. Our defense is pretty good. It's not the Legion of Boom, but it's pretty good. Could Dak be Russell Wilson 2.0?
I think so.
I think
with those tools around him, particularly Metcalf and the running back Walker, who
receiver core wise, Seattle is deeper than Dallas because it goes CeeDee Lamb, a big gap to Brandon Cooks. Meanwhile, when it's on the Seahawks, it's DK Metcalf
and Tyler Lockett.
It's Tyler Lockett, then JSN. I think JSN might have a nice little boost this year and could be over Lockett, but I like Lockett a lot anyway. So it would be DK. Lockett, and then JSN. Instead of CD, massive gap, Brandon Cooks. And also, Cowboys lost Dalton Schultz last year. Ferguson was not a bad tight end, but Dalton Schultz, we saw him on the Texans. Pretty good tight end. So much so they extended him with that big group of talent with Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Noah Brown. They have a lot of talent as well. But I do think that because Dak's already looking at the future, and saying, well, in my career, I'm 30 years old? Not old. I'm not really that old. I think depending on the team, I might take less just to not be on the Cowboys. He gets scrutinized like nobody else. He has a tampering owner. He comes in. He's a meddling owner. He comes in, says something in an interview. For instance, like saying, well, I don't think Dak's going to be, I don't think he's going to hit free agency. And then Dak's saying, well, free agency doesn't seem so bad.
Yeah, well, he's probably going to be, if he does stick with the Cowboys, a good chance he's going to have a new coach.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, and who might that be? Nobody knows. Could be Bill Belichick.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.